Hi. Sorry, I'm in a very weird mood. I think it's partially because I took up intermittent fasting, and I don't know what I'm doing apparently, because whoever said, oh yeah, intermittent fasting is great for energy is a bold-faced lie. Because I have been slumping over like a toddler that just learned how to sit up every day at like noon, which I'm pretty sure isn't when that's supposed to happen. So it is midnight. I am filming this at midnight because I have a weird surge of energy now, because this is when I need it. Then after I film this, hopefully done by about 1 a.m., I'm gonna drive to McDonald's and eat nuggets, because that's how I'm gonna break my fast. Obviously, again, don't think I'm doing it right, but whatever. I'm such a mood. Damn, that would have been a good ad lead in, but I didn't finish my intro. Hi, by the way. I'm Kendall. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? And happy Saturday. If you don't know what Saturday is when I do a little something on my channel called Bad Movies in a Beat, the series on my channel where I talk about bad movies while putting my makeup on. Now we're gonna act like I didn't do that lead in already. Mood. An electric mood. As in, today's sponsor is e.l.f., particularly their electric mood collection. So commence, ad roll, Kennie. Hi, hello, I'm gorgeous. Do you see that? Do you see this glow? This video is brought to you by this glow. Well, technically this video is brought to you by e.l.f. Cosmetics, who is kindly sponsoring today's video. I created this look as well as the look that you'll see throughout the video using everything from their new Electric Mood collection. A collection inspired by music and the love of music and the feelings you get while listening to music. It's basically a big collection that consists of 3 little collections. The first is the Pixie Zion collection, who is a Colombian singer and actress. The second collection is Tiana Major 9, who is a vibrant and soulful singer from London. And last but not least, we have the Tove Lo collection. All the time to keep you on my mind. Whoa. So if you would like to check out any of these products, feel free to check them out down below. And again, I will be using them throughout the rest of this video. Big thanks again to e.l.f. for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. I am so cute right now. Do you see my eyelid? Girl, anyway. Debauchery and all that. All right, so last week, we finally, dear God, we finally ended that horrible just cesspool of trash. Why am I doing this so aggressively? Known as 50 Shades of Grey, particularly the last movie, 50 Shades Freed. One could say I've finally been freed from that wasn't good. In fairness though, there is no real respite from 50 Shades of Grey or anything Twilight adjacent. Anything that started from Twilight has this insidious nature that just seems to never end. Twilight, then you have 50 Shades of Grey, then you have 365 Days, which y'all have so kindly let me know there's a sequel that's being made. And then of course there's like the myriad of low budget bondage films that have come because of 50 Shades of Grey. I digress. So I'm free theoretically, but alas, I will never be truly free from everything that is 50 Shades of Grey and or Twilight adjacent. And it's just my cross to bear. Anyway, if you haven't seen that video, feel free to check it out up above, or you can check it out in the Bad Movies in a Beat playlist. Speaking of sagas, this week we're finally finishing off what I like to refer to as the whitewash anime unholy trinity, aka any like movie adaptation of anime or anime-like content. We kind of looked at it backwards actually from the way that it came out. We started off with Netflix's Death Note that made me homicidal. I didn't even know where to throw hands. Then we looked at M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. And today we are finally looking at one of the most egregious. I don't think you can get any worse than those two, but apparently we can try. We are looking at the 2009 film adaptation of the 90s anime Dragon Ball Z, known as Dragon Ball Evolution. So as a 90s kid, I was a fan to some degree of Dragon Ball Z in the sense that I watched it. I watched it anytime it was on, but if you ask me, Kendall, what was Dragon Ball Z about? I have no idea. I don't know if it was because I was too young to really understand what was happening, or I just like to watch people fight. I remember people went into a state called Super Saiyan. There was the Kamehameha, which was a move. I remember the hair. And I remember them taking an obscenely long amount of time to fight. They would take like 3 weeks worth of episodes of them just mentally dick sucking each other. Oh my God, he's so strong. I've never seen no muscles like this before. And then they would fight. But yeah, that's about it. Like, I liked it. I think I was more of like a Yu Yu Hakusho type of bitch, which had a similar vibe if I remember correctly, but I had a crush on the redhead, but particularly when he turned into a white-haired fox, because I was really into white-hair anime dudes, particularly when they were a little bit sadistic. Shishomaru, Sephiroth, especially the newest renditions of him. He could just stab me through the back anytime. I feel like I've made this joke before, but it's a sentiment I carry with me. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So when I started talking about the adaptations, if that's even what you want to call them, renditions, some other when they made Death Note, Netflix's Death Note, and Shyamalan's Last Airbender, a lot of people were bringing up Dragon Ball Evolution. And I didn't really jump into watching this because, again, I don't remember a whole lot from the original Dragon Ball Z, so I couldn't go in saying like, oh, this is unlike the original show, because I don't remember a lot of the original show. I don't remember a lot of what it's supposed to be emulating. But I realized very quickly, within 2 minutes of watching this movie, it don't matter. It does not matter what it was originally supposed to be doing. I know this ain't it. This is on some other shit. I recognize names and the general premise of there being Dragon Balls, of which there are 7, and when you collect them all, they have like some power. And also that in making this adaptation, they decided to make it definitively unfocused on Asian people, because of course they do. All the people that enjoyed this recognize this as a Japanese anime, but of course, you know what we need to sell that? A white man. That the Asians who it was originally about are now supporting characters. Love that. Wow, it's almost like I've never heard this song before. It has a jazzy new beat to it. But unlike those last two movies, this movie completely slipped by me. I had never heard of this movie until you guys were bringing it up. You know, I had heard of the other two, and I had, you know, explicitly said I ain't watching that. Whereas this one is, I watched purely with the knowledge of you guys comparing it to these other two, and I was like, oh, so this is the day we're having. Now, being that that is the case, I literally went so much of my life never knowing that this movie existed. And so, as usual, I have to come in here as the vengeful sadist that I am and make y'all watch it too. You're welcome. And so, together, we shall travel down the cinematic sewer system known as Dragon Ball Evolution. This movie begins with a little bit of lore. Again, because I don't remember a whole lot of the original Dragon Ball and the lore of it, I cannot confirm nor deny how accurate it is to source material. With that said, considering I'm sure they took quite a few licenses for the rest of the movie, I wouldn't be surprised if they took like a sizable amount on just the core storyline. I get it, it's a movie, you have to make some changes, but sometimes you really wonder, do they just go out of their way? But the story is that many eons ago, there was a being, an alien, named Piccolo. I do remember there being a character named that, but I personally do not recall him looking like Mountain Dew handsome Squidward. Piccolo and his merry band of helpers, particularly this monster that he would summon to bring forth great destruction named Ozaru, basically almost wiped out the entirety of humanity, only for him to be stopped by a group of monks or like shamans who were able to seal him into like the core of the earth with a technique called the Mafuba. Thousands of years have passed, and for no reason, not one explanation was given the entire movie, somehow Piccolo was able to return to Earth. We never find out why, how, whatever. But whatever, Piccolo is back, and he's here to enslave the Earth, and to do so, he needs all 7 Dragon Balls. Enter Goku. That's all, folks. There's just so much in this first shot that it's overwhelming. First of all, one, again, I'm just so tired of seeing white people where they're not supposed to be. But outside of that, this is supposed to be like a 17-year-old boy. Now, I know what you're thinking if you're familiar with my series. You're like, oh, she's about to sing the brooding hot 25-year-old teenager theme song. But here's the thing, though. I can't even do that in this context because it's not even like brooding hot. It's just a guy. Just like a dude that works in IT. He just works at a bank or is like the guy that sold me my modem. But Goku... I don't even want to call him that. That's how bad it is. Like, I don't want to call him that. He doesn't... Grant. His name is Grant. We're calling him Grant. But Grant is a 17-year-old child living in a location and time of which they never quite explain thoroughly. And I'll get more on that in a bit because that's one of the most offensive, honestly, and this is pretty bad already, but there is like an element that I find particularly offensive, as much as I, as a non-Asian person, can find it offensive, but I do find it offensive. I'm sorry, I just can't get... It's very distracting. You know, like in Vampire Diaries where they were swearing up and down that Stefan looked like a 17-year-old? And not only that, that through the course of like 8 seasons, he still looked like a 17-year-old, even though he was like pushing 40 by the end of it. That's how I feel about this casting. It's just so bad. And also, I'm going on a whole tangent. Stuff like this really screwed up my perception of what a 17-year-old looks like. Because I remember going into high school and being like, yes, I'm gonna be getting all these boyses, I'm gonna getting all these daddies. And then you realize you're 14 and you're going into high school with other 14-year-olds who look 14. And I was so deeply disappointed. I was like, where are the like Ian Summer holders, even though he was like 32. So Goku has an adopted grandfather who is teaching him use of energy, i.e. ki, as they refer to it through the movie. Side note, I'd always heard it referred to as chi, but I'm sure there's other ways to pronounce it, especially with like translation, romanization, whatever. We begin with just horrible training session, and I don't know how much I can like blame this on the time period, in the sense of technology has really, it's been 11 years, a lot has changed, so I don't know if it was just really bad green screen or if it was just a mark of the times. But either way, it's horrible, and it really does clue me into what I'm about to embark on as a viewer of this film. There's a lot in this first scene. We see a 35-year-old man, he was like 27, but still way too damn old to be playing a 17-year-old, doing bootleg Matrix-esque fighting with an old man. So there's like this mixture of like Mr. Miyagi type vibe. There's also this very ham-fisted attempt at like humor. The thing that makes this so funny to me is that I can only imagine what people expected going into seeing that movie. Well, in fairness, apparently he's not supposed to be an insecure 17-year-old boy. He's actually an insecure, newly 18-year-old boy, because today is his birthday. And for his birthday, his grandfather gives him a 4-star Dragon Ball. So Grant doesn't really know what this is, but he's like, oh, okay, thanks. Now, if you recall correctly, a Dragon Ball is a ball that holds great power, specifically when used in collection with all 7 to bring forth a dragon that can grant a wish of some sort, if I recall correctly, something like that. Now, why, for whatever reason, the grandfather didn't think it was smart to let him know why it's so important, what it means in the grand scheme of things, he didn't say anything. He was just like, happy birthday, here's a ball. Now, again, being that this is quite the Americanized version of this story, there is, of course, a suburban high school setting at which he's a definitive social outclass. He has these awful bullies who I wouldn't even want to call them that, because they try to murder him several times throughout this movie. The main bully is a 40-year-old black man, and being that Grant isn't supposed to use his abilities, you know, in front of regular people, he's just forced to be embarrassed in front of his crush, an Asian girl named Chi-Chi. And again, Grant being the misunderstood hero, he's like, why do all the Chads get the girl that I'm like? Again, because this movie explains nothing. Piccolo is just out there up, particularly in Japan. And upon seeing the movie's representation of Japan, I was at best incredibly confused and at worst offended. Or found it offensive if now, as a caveat, I've never been to Japan, so I can't say that there aren't modern day like rural areas in which people sustain seemingly a very traditional way of life in Japan. But there was something weird about this scene. As if we turn back time. This feels racist to me. It's giving me racism. There's something very like archaic about this, because if I recall correctly, they don't really say where the rest of the movie takes place, right? Which is also very confusing to me. I don't know what country or area this is supposed to take place in, but they specify this scene is in Japan. So we want you to know that this is Japan, presumably somewhere that isn't where the rest of the story is taking place. You feel? It's giving like a little Warring States era tease. Edo, Meiji, realness. In other words, it's giving me old. And I find it fascinating that this is the depiction of Japan in contrast with the like hyper modern white high school and backdrop. It feels much like the whole premise of switching out a main character who would be Asian for a white man. It feels very like separating whiteness from Asian incivility even. It feels racist. Am I the only one that feels that? There's this feel of like Asian people, unless they assimilate into white high schools, for instance, exist both foreign in place and time. And the only one that doesn't is the one that I have a crush on. And I don't like that. Anyway, Piccolo's helper, who is this woman that I don't think they name the entire movie. She comes in to find the Dragon Ball. They get it from a woman and shoot her, presumably. And this is where we're introduced to Piccolo and his followers going on this worldwide manhunt for these Dragon Balls. Anyway, in the next scene, we're at the high school in which the class is learning about the up-and-coming solar eclipse. During which lesson, Grant is sitting there just fantasizing about his crush on the Chi-Chi girl. They end up talking after Grant uses his key to open her locker after it gets stuck. And then they have this dialogue.
Wait, you know about Key?
Just because my name is Chi-Chi doesn't make me a complete idiot.
Why? What?
Right, because there's a lot stupider names than Chi-Chi. I'm not saying that Chi-Chi's a stupid name. I'm just saying that it's not normal. But
at the end of this, quote, adorably awkward scene, I guess is what they were going for, Chi-Chi invites him to a house party that night. Now, again, recall that today is Grant's birthday and Grandpa is making him food at home for his birthday. And it's another scene that made me mad because there's this air around this scene that pisses me off because he's making food and it has this kind of connotation that it's funny because of the weird quote-unquote things that he's eating. And I would just like to say, first of all, f you. And two, second, I've had enough foot in my mouth to have a foot fetish at this point. Don't clip that, chat. Please don't. I've eaten my fair share of takbar, bitch. And I just find it that the uncultured always wants to come for chicken feet. It feels, again, very racist. This kind of like, oh, look at what the weird Asians are eating. It's like, you. Never mind that a white woman in a Dakota somewhere is probably feeding her family mayo casserole, but yes, we have a problem with the Asians. So Grant goes to the party. He takes the Dragon Ball for some reason, and it makes no sense, but sure. Fudge sickles and buttered rice. All right. At said party, his attempted murderers make another attempt. I mean, at this point, he's swinging pipes and stuff. Should we call somebody? I feel like a witness. Am I an accessory if we just watching it? But at the end of which, everyone has been beaten up by their own aggression, and Chi-Chi comes down to talk to Grant. She has streaks, because of course she does. Again, why stop there? The whole movie is a giant offense. And they talk and he tells her that he just turned 18 today. Today is actually his birthday. Back at home, Granddad is getting ready to do some type of like ceremony or something, only for Piccolo and his henchwoman to come in, try to steal the Dragon Ball, only to realize that it's not there, blow up the house, and have it fall on Granddad. That escalated quickly. Now, Grant is able to sense in a sort of like Spidey sense-esque way that Granddad is in trouble. So he runs back to the house. Granddad is like, there's not much time, but I need to tell you that you need to protect the Dragon Ball. My lace looks tragic. Oh my God. You need to protect the Dragon Ball. Find some guy named Master Roshi so that he can train you and help you find the other Dragon Balls before the eclipse. Otherwise, the world is over. I don't know why he felt the need to just not tell him until the last minute. But sure, because that was something that had to remain a secret. Cool. Piccolo is back somehow and he will destroy the world, so. Soon, or the next day, whenever, a woman comes to the house looking for the Dragon Ball. And I was like, old girl looks very familiar. Come to find out, it's the chick from Shameless. Girl, you were in this movie? We all make mistakes anyway, but she also has streaks, so I guess it makes it a little less racist. According to them, at least, I guess.
My father found that Prometheum orb 20 years ago, and you stole it from me last.
Girl, this ain't no memoir. Are you gonna shoot him or not?
I don't know what you're talking about. This is a Dragon Ball. Sushi 2, 4-star ball. I promised my grandfather I would keep it safe, so I'm not letting it.
Why are you allowed to talk so much? Anyway, she says that the one that was stolen from her father's company was actually a 5-star ball, not this 4-star ball. So there actually are more out there than she thought there were. So they decide to team up together to get the orbs because she wants to use it for an energy source or something to make her famous. It's a whole non-story, whatever. So they team up together. Cool beans. They team up to go find Master Roshi because she has some kind of like technology that allows them to find Dragon Balls. They find him, they break into his house. You ever see a scene or like a shot from a scene and you just know what this looked like in filming, like direction wise? They literally said, we're gonna put this camera this close to your face and you're gonna go, Grant does a move called the Shadow Crane Strike, which allows Roshi to know that this is Gohan's grandson.
I am Muten Roshi, the Invincible!
My grandfather is dead.
Look, as not funny as that is, I did laugh. Grant finds the ball. Apparently it allows him to see poorly rendered CGI versions of the future. The apocalypse that is oncoming as the eclipse draws nigh. They come upon a secret area at which to train for this up-and-coming apocalyptic battle, only to realize that the secret place they were going to is not so secret. It's actually just where everyone trains for like an up-and-coming like martial arts tournament. One of the people training there is actually Chi-Chi. More comedically bad CGI. They get another signal for a Dragon Ball, which leads them to a trap where they fall down into a ditch. The setter of this trap was a man named Yamcha, who won't help them up unless they pay him. They are seemingly stuck down there until nightfall, at which Roshi gives the whole story and background of the Mafu Ba, Piccolo, how he was sealed away, how he had a monster named Ozaru that was also sealed away. And at the end of story time, he just jumps out of the ditch. So you're telling me that we have an incredibly small amount of time to save the world, and instead of immediately getting out of this hole, you said, let's spend at least, 12 hours in this ditch to have a chat. They get Yamcha to tag along because he has equipment to drill underground because they end up getting signal for another ball. And they go underground, really underground, like lava and and they dressed in full-length pants, not even a capri or something. Piccolo's monsters have also gotten the signal and they end up down there. They end up fighting, at the end of which Grant uses their bodies as a bridge across the lava to go and get the Dragon Ball. Fast forward to that tournament we briefly mentioned, and Chi-Chi ends up fighting the main chick, only to get a sample of Chi-Chi's blood, and then surrenders the fight. Yamcha and Bulma almost kiss. And I say almost because of course they don't, because Asian men aren't supposed to be seen as objects of affection in film. It's not funny, but it's true, especially early 2000s. Think of any movie with an Asian male lead, and it's undoubtedly a martial arts film, because of course, a non-Asian female lead where they actually kiss, except for Black Cinderella. Roshi tries to teach Grant the Kamehameha and leaves him to practice, only for him to have Chi-Chi come in there and try to entice him to learn it better, because if he succeeds, he can kiss her, and they kiss, and who cares. Roshi goes to talk to a black monk, because why not, who seems to be like one of a group of elder monks who can work together to do the Mafu Ba again, I guess. Meanwhile, Bulma and Yamcha find Chi-Chi coming out of Grant's bedroom, only to find out that she's actually not Chi-Chi. She's a clone made by Piccolo's main chick. There's a tussle, there's a fight where the real Chi-Chi and the fake Chi-Chi come together and they fight, and they do, of course, that fucking which one is it? Grant ends up hitting the wrong Chi-Chi, and then the fake Chi-Chi gets away with the Dragon Balls that they have collected thus far. In the scuffle, Grant nearly dies, but Roshi is able to keep him from falling deeper into the land of death, but not before Grant can have a conversation with his grandfather where he's like, so what do I do to like defeat this thing? Have faith in who you are.
Always have faith in who you are.
Believing in myself ain't a fighting move. I just thought of like somebody, like two people going into a fight, like in a street brawl. I have the power of believing in myself on my side. But, more importantly, the bad guys got all the balls, and they're trying to summon something with this, and for some reason, the eclipse has something to do with it too. I don't know. But the gang's there to save the world. At some point, Grant changes into this outfit. I don't know when or why. Like, what was the context that this was necessary? But okay. But apparently, what we find out is that at the eclipse, Grant turns into Piccolo's monster Ozaru. Because apparently, 18 years ago, which as I say that out loud, that doesn't make sense because weren't they all sealed away a millennia ago? Okay, anyway. 18 years ago, Piccolo's monster Ozaru fell from a meteor or something and crashed into Earth and hid amongst humans as a human child. That baby was found by Granddad and was raised by him. I don't know. Just stop asking questions. It's too late to ask questions. The movie's almost over. So he turns into Ozaru, and it is truly some of the most unsettling morphing CGI I've seen ever. It's really unsettling. And if that's what they were going for, sure, I guess. But anyway, in the meantime, Yamcha and Bulma are running away. I don't remember how they got one ball or some of the balls. I don't know how they got it, but they have one. And they're running away at the same time. And I'm gonna stress that because for some reason, Yamcha was like, go on without me. He's not hurt. There's nothing that's stopping them from going together. He's just like, go on without, like, what? Did you need to catch a breather? Did you? Turns around and then gets rock'em sock'em because of course what? I completely forgot about this, but at some point Roshi gets knocked out and Grant, still in his Ozaru state, nearly chokes him to death while he was already dying, and then he remembers who he is. Girl, if you're this bad at shooting, why is this your primary weapon? It's a it's a finite space. Oh, but yeah, Yamcha's still alive. Yay. They still don't kiss though. Girl, let's speed it up. It's almost 2 a.m. There's a Kamehameha. Why did I do it like it was a riff? Jasmine Sullivan. Kamehameha. Kamehameha. Sorry. Again, it's 1:45 in the morning. Anywho, Piccolo's dead, and now they have all the balls together. Decide to use the balls to bring forth the dragon and grant one wish, which will be to bring back Roshi. Did I say that Roshi died? At some point during the fight, Roshi died. There is, of course, some sequel bait, but as far as I know, they never made a second one, thank God. They allude to Roshi having much to teach Grant, especially now that because they've summoned the dragon, all the balls have gone spewed across the earth. That was a great sentence, wow. And they're gonna have to go and find them again. But before that journey can begin, we gotta kiss the girl, have this very weird conversation about how she let him hit her.
I let you hit me.
I was just too fast.
You're fast, but I let you hit me.
Well, it was dark and confusing. I wasn't holding back.
Okay.
And yeah, and that's the end of the movie. James Wan, this is an Asian man's doing. You, James Wan. Let me stop. This is 2009, and they probably wouldn't even funded his movie if they didn't make it terrible, essentially. So, you know what? I am sorry, James. Damn, I didn't realize this. I didn't last a second into the credits because it literally like 30 seconds into the credits, they show like the after credit, like sneak peek. Piccolo, the pickle person, is still alive. And I guess that woman from Japan earlier didn't die. She was like his caretaker or something. I don't know. Who cares? They never made a second one, I don't think so. And if they did, don't tell me. I don't want to watch it. This movie is an embarrassment. If you had anything to do with this movie, I am shaming you. I am Dragon Ball shaming you. This is offensive to the source material, to everyone that's ever liked Dragon Ball Z, for anyone that is familiar with the storyline, to Japanese people. It's a mess. But while I'm here and we're talking about it as the trifecta, we do need to talk about how this movie stacks up to the other two white boy main character anime fantasy movie adaptation universe thing. Best to worst? I mean, what difference does it make if you're the best of trash? But you know, I'm gonna put Dragon Ball ahead of Death Note simply because I don't feel as emotionally attached to the Dragon Ball one. Like, it's bad, but I'm not like seething the way I felt about Death Note. Death Note made me want to punch somebody. It's Dragon Ball, Netflix Death Note, and then Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. So that is all for today, folks. If you like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram and Twitter, both of which are KennieJD. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!